You're listening to WERA LP Arlington 96.7. This is Devin Gallagher, host of Media on the Radio, and thanks for listening. Media on the Radio is a podcast that features conversations with media professionals. Everyone from creators of media to those who do the marketing and distribution. Today on the show, Jonathan Goldfuss shares his narrative of starting off the .com boom on the West Coast, tracking some of his different work he's done, building websites for well-known brands, doing marketing plans, making videos, commercials. It's all leading to what he's working on now, which is a venture called Co-Productions. It's coproductions.com. And what he's trying to do is create a marketplace for freelancers and freelance teams to connect with clients to do projects. And as he puts it, it's a way to make freelance more viable. If you're a client that's looking for freelancers, if you're a freelancer looking for clients, take a listen to the interview. He explains it all. Also check out coproductions.com. Hope you enjoy it. I know you've been involved in working with agencies, working for agencies. What were some of the early jobs that you had coming out of college?
Well, when I graduated in 1999 and wanted to be in the middle of the .com boom, right? I was just fascinated by the technical world, but not as a technologist per se. It was more about what is going on with all these people and why are they so excited about what's happening out there. So I talked to a friend of mine that had started at Emory and transferred out into driving cross country with me and moving to San Francisco and seeing what we could see, and stayed on his uncle's couch for a couple of weeks. And at that point in early summer 99, they were basically handing out jobs on the street corners, but you couldn't find an apartment. It was impossible to find a place to sleep. So we got jobs in like 2 weeks. Took us 3 or 4 months to find an apartment to live in. He got a job with an IT company, and I took a job with an advertising agency. Actually got 3 job offers on the same day. I took the one that seemed the coolest, right? Which was just people that were doing really fun, creative work and dressed however they wanted and had tattoos and, had a ping pong table in the office. That's not the most responsible way to make a decision, but that's what I did at the time. Just trying to figure out how to be an adult.
Cool. So, you're cutting your teeth in the agency world, and then what was as you developed, what was your kind of specialty? I mean, handling accounts. What would you say that you developed skills in?
In about 6 months, I went to work for Hotwire.com, a travel website, which had just launched. So it was an early stage, and the branding, the logo they have now, they did not have then. And so, we quickly rebranded the organization. I got a chance to work on marketing, advertising, production management, email marketing, and what they called community marketing, which is sort of the precursor to social media marketing. It was trolling chat rooms, looking for conversations about travel or about the brand. And I was at Hotwire for 3 years until they were purchased by IAC, Expedia's parent company. And then the leadership moved up to Seattle. My wife's career had a change at that point, so we decided to move back to the East Coast to be close to our families. I went to work for AOL for a year, made just big budget TV commercials with the Tuttles, who are the motorcycle guys from Discovery Channel. They had a motorcycle show, and they were so I'd worked on that campaign, and then a number of different ads with the little yellow Running Man guy animation.
I'm curious, you're talking about all of these projects and all of these products that you've helped launch, and as far as I know, you don't have a background in coding or in software development or video production, even though you've worked on commercials.
Yeah, it was always about trying to understand the true decision-making dynamics. That's the part that fascinates me the most. Why are people making the decisions they're making, right? And it's very hard to ascertain that sometimes, because people don't usually know. They're not conscious of why they're making the decisions they're making. We mostly make decisions emotionally, and then we retroactively apply logical reasons to justify why we made the decision we would have made anyway. And so to me, that's fascinating. I mean, when I was at Hotwire, we had a post-purchase survey, common, especially in the digital world. And one of the questions was, how did you hear about Hotwire? And something like a quarter to a third of people used to say that they saw our TV ad. We didn't have a TV ad. We never had made a TV ad. And yet these people answer the survey and say, yeah, I saw your TV ad. That's why I'm here. So again, to me, that's like, these people do not know why they're here. They don't know how they heard about us. How could we possibly understand why they're making the decision if they don't even know, right? So to me, that's the part that really fascinates me about human behavior, is better understanding why we're doing what we're doing, and then designing those communications and the systems to take advantage of what's actually happening, not what appears to be happening on the surface or what the buyers might be telling us is happening. I was offered a full-time job at Think Food Group, and they were just about to open their first restaurant outside of the DC area. And that was the Bazaar by Jose Andres in a hotel in Beverly Hills called the SLS. And so their senior leadership was spending a lot more time out of DC than they ever had before, and hired me to essentially give the DC restaurants the care and attention they needed from corporate, even though a lot of their operations and senior staff was occupied elsewhere. I was essentially operating solo for the first year and a half, and trying to get marketing projects done in an environment that was far more constrained than one I had ever worked in before. When you're at Hotwire or AOL or Discovery and you need a website, you either can build it in-house with some very talented people, or you can go hire an advertising agency, and there's plenty of budget to hire a great shop to do it. Think Food Group was not that way. One, because the industry, the hospitality industry, really just doesn't value marketing in the same way than a lot of other industries do. Two, Jose Andres was the creative director. We didn't really need outside vision, but then again, Jose was one person, and his creativity was focused on the food and the restaurant atmosphere and the beverage and a lot of other things. And trying to get him to concept with me for print ads or for emails just didn't make any sense either, right? So I found myself in this position where I had projects that I knew I could get done with agencies, but I didn't have a budget that could hire an agency. I was constantly short in the kind of talent that I needed to get the projects done, and having to scramble and do a lot of things myself that I wasn't qualified to do. Had to learn a lot more about code, a lot more about hosting. I had to learn how to use Adobe Creative Suite a lot of times to get things done myself, because I couldn't afford to pay somebody else to do it. And, what I couldn't get over was just this feeling of waste by doing that.
Before this conversation, we talked a lot about the agencies and how they work. And what you're saying with this situation was you didn't have the budget to hire an agency. And sometimes there are projects that exist that you don't necessarily need an agency, but where do you go and how do you, get access to the talent that you need? And so in terms of that issue, and I feel like I know that there's a lot of clients out there that need, for example, my expertise to solve a problem, but I can't get connected to them necessarily.
Well, I mean, how do we find those people now? We call the people that we know that have expertise in the area and say, who do you know, right? Can you refer somebody to me that does this thing? For the most part, that works. However, it was not easy. It was not quick. And I didn't have many options. If I found one person that had the skills and the availability, then I considered myself done with the search, right? Great. I found somebody. Let's do it. And so that's not a great way to sort of optimize what it is that you're trying to get done. A big part of it is that if you have a project that needs more than one skill set, you have to go through that process multiple times, and you have to find all of those people and make sure they're available at the same time, right? And you find one, then you go to find the next one, and the first one becomes unavailable. Then you got to go find a first one again, and then the second one becomes unavailable. So, you're constantly playing this game of trying to essentially find the people for the next time that you need them, as opposed to going and hire an agency. And an agency supposedly has all these skills available in-house all the time, but they're incentivized to sort of fudge around the edges, right? And say, yeah, we've got a great motion graphics animator, right? And then run back to the office and say, hey, are you a motion graphics animator? No? Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we got to find somebody. I think to a certain extent, the clients have sort of caught on to that idea and realize that these agencies are essentially becoming more and more virtual, having to cut their own overhead, and therefore hiring freelancers themselves. And so, in the end, you're hiring an agency in a big part because they have a bigger Rolodex than you do. They don't have a monopoly over these people. The people are out there in the market. They're not trying to hide. The alternative to let me call the people I know, is to use one of the current platforms like Upwork or freelance.com. And that lacks the verification mechanism that you have in the old fashioned method of, going through your contact list.
And you had mentioned when we met for coffee that you said that some clients will hire multiple people to do the same job just because they can't guarantee that.
Yeah, I mean, the guy that I know that uses Upwork the most hires 2 or 3 people for every project and just has them work in parallel and doesn't tell any of them about each other because he's been left at the end of his timeline with no work too many times. And so he builds redundancy into his system.
Well, and from the freelancer video producer perspective, or even better, a developer that spends so much time, developing that skill. It's super technical, many years of study to do that. I use this term a lot. They have to rise to the level of their incompetency to then go and be a networker, be a project manager, somebody that's going to network to find clients.
Sure.
Why do they have to do that? There should be some sort of mechanism.
I know a lot of people, designers and developers mostly, that have gone out on their own and realized that they so despise the business development process that they went back in-house, even though they weren't excited about it.
And I'm sure a lot of them are actually really decent at working with clients. It's not about how their client management or their personality or anything like that. It's literally they can't develop the work. They can't find it.
They just are so allergic to, things like cold calling and, that it's too painful for them. And so they can't be happy on their own because of the amount of time that's required of being a salesperson.
So what would be the solution then to this problem?
Let me think about it. Well,
no, we're not hiding the ball. So you're working on the solution now, which is co-productions. It's coproductions.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
So walk us through what that is and how it's helping to solve this problem.
Sure. Well, Co-Productions is a network platform, a marketplace really for clients to be able to find and hire freelancers as teams. You can hire them as solo individuals as well, but the problem that it's designed to solve is when a client has a project that's too complex to be done by a single person, but the agency route just doesn't provide the value that they're looking for. Either it's too pricey or they just haven't felt like their needs are well met by an agency. And first and foremost, we at Co-Productions validate the professional experience of the people that sign up on the network. So you can't get into the Co-Productions network as a freelancer unless you have a professional that's willing to publicly vouch for your skills, that's willing to say, yes, I've worked with this person. Yes, they demonstrate the skills that they claim. So, that solves the primary problem with the more anonymous freelancer platforms where you can't really be sure, right? These are people that are connected and you know who those connections are, but at a much higher quality level than, say, LinkedIn, right? On LinkedIn, I'm connected to 1,000 people that I would never vouch for, but you can't be connected to people on co-productions unless you would vouch for them. Then once you've built out this interconnected web of connections to validate work experience, that also serves as the platform to build teams. In general, if you're a, say, copywriter, most of the people that you know and have worked with professionally are designers and developers and producers and directors, the complementary skills that you would work with. The connections, the people that you use to vouch for your experience are also the people that you could team up with to do these projects.
Of course, this site, you're running it, and it has to sustain itself, has to make money. So how does the actual match work, and how do
Sure.
people get teamed up?
Yeah, I would say, again, it's a marketplace platform. I'm essentially functioning as a broker. I am developing the business. Right now I work directly with the clients to scope the project that they have a need for. I then send that scope document out to everybody in the network that has a related skill set. It's called that my request for bids. Once all the bids are in, ideally somewhere between 2 and 6 per project, I will send the client a bid report that just says, here are the teams that have bid on your project. Here's their individual information, so you can decide if these are the people you want to work with. Client selects a team. Sometimes they pick more than one, but it's usually one team to be introduced to. And then co-productions charges 15% on top of what the freelance team is charging. So the client pays a 15% premium to co-productions to essentially find, and then I handle the contracting and billing for the project as well.
To me, it sounds pretty good because, especially from a freelance perspective, you're not paying any additional finder's fee or anything from that. And also you're not having to handle some of the overhead that's required for the project as well.
From the freelancer standpoint, the benefits they get, first and foremost, are they don't have to do business development. The network is driving projects to them, and
there's nothing to lose. Yeah.
There's no cost or obligation for freelancers if they sign up. There are some other companies that have started in the space that, charge freelancers a sign up fee of, as much as $500 just to find out about the work. My philosophy on that is that freelancers in general don't have the financial stability that would be reasonable to expect them to, walk into a platform for the first time and hand over $500 without ever knowing if that money is going to come back. The way I look at it is the freelancers are the product. They have the skills, they're the experts, and the clients would otherwise have to hire an agency to do the same work and pay 2 to 3 times as much. So a 15% fee to them is barely noticeable compared to the savings they're getting by going to freelancers.
It's interesting because the network is remote to a certain degree. And as you said, it's interconnected, so that there's a lot of people that know each other already that may be working together. Have you thought about, not necessarily, that's definitely not a brick and mortar place, but have you thought about having happy hours or creating some sort of physical social environment around it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the overarching mission of co-productions is to make freelancing a more viable employment option for really good, talented people. And the way that I'm trying to achieve that is by making freelance teams more agency-like. All the different ways that you can make the teams more agency-like, include things like having happy hours, right? Having regular in-person meetings. I do have conference room space that I make available to the freelancers when they want to meet in person. It's lonely to be working alone all day long every day. Even if you do know somebody else that's doing the same thing on the other side of town, it's nice to be able to get together and grab lunch or have a drink or, just grab a whiteboard and talk about an idea in a way that you can't do if you're 100% virtual.
Even 1.5 years into full freelance, that's what I'm looking for. So I think you can get by, or at least I could get by, in my home office, doing my thing, making my French press coffee. Right. And then eventually, you want some sort of connection So that's really cool. That sounds really good.
Yeah, and the projects that I've worked on where a team came together and worked on the project, that was great during the project. Then when the project was over, the team disbands, and then you lose that. One of the things I'm hoping that we can achieve with this network is you build a team on one project, you form strong relationships, and then that team can bid on the next project together, and they're a cohesive unit already. So then you know each other's work habits, you know each other's communication foibles. And, you know, the dream is we launch 1,000 new agencies from this platform that, you know, people like working together so much that they decide to formalize their relationships to each other and create their own company. You know, I think that would be fantastic.
Well, that's cool. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I am sure a lot of people listening are very interested, and hopefully will sign up. Well, check it out. It's called Co-Productions. It's coproductions.com, so check it out. Check out the back episodes on waitwhatpro.com. This is Devin Gallagher, host of Media on the Radio, and thanks for listening.